Guys, welcome to Three Bold Takes. We're about to start doing our predictions for week 10 of the college football season. But before we get into this first video, I want to remind you that we are sponsored by SeatGeek. Use our code Three Bold Takes at SeatGeek for $20 off your first purchase. I love using them for every event I go to, not just sports, but music events and other events of the such, like Monster Jam came to my local area about 2 months ago. Super fun event. SeatGeek has the best prices on seats for any event that you're looking to go to. That being said, guys, it's time to talk about the biggest game of the weekend in week 10. Number 4, Ohio State at number 3, Penn State. This game is going to be huge. Line currently has Ohio State favored at 3.5, over under at 49.5. Guys, game is at 11 o'clock. I'm so mad about this. I am tired of big noon kickoff robbing us of the Penn State-Ohio State game being a whiteout. This is like the second or third whiteout opportunity in a row that has been robbed by big noon kickoff. I'm getting really, really sick and tired of it. But, you know, it is what it is. I guess traditions aren't as important as market money value. So, guys, what are you thinking for Penn State, Ohio State here? I know both of you are sitting on opposite sides of the James Franklin fence. So whichever one wants to go first, go right ahead.
Chase, you go first.
I would love to go. I hate that Quinn had to lie to you guys as soon as he opened his mouth saying this is the biggest game of the weekend. It's not. Who cares? Yes, the AP poll is going to tell you it's a big game. It's not.
College football playoff polls would tell you it's a big game if those were
this is just it's the same game every year, guys. You know, it's
a highly competitive football game between two top 10 teams. Exactly.
And it's Penn State. And Penn State can never do it against his big brother, ever, at all, even a little bit. James Franklin looks gosh, bring me back. I wish we could put videos on here while we talk. I would put the Key and Peele skit of the guy running that looks like James Franklin across the field, because that's how James Franklin is all the time. He's not a top 5 college football team head coach at all. He can't get it done in any game at all. I get on here every year, and I hope there's at least one fan or one listener or one watcher that says, hey, you know, I've been riding with Three Bold Takes since they started. Chase, year after year, I've written it down. You've been right. Freddie and Quinn, I just always believe in Penn State, but Chase, you've been right every single year. And I wish I could sit here and show you and have all the evidence, but I don't. And this is just another one of those games. Penn State is going to go up against Goliath here, and they're just going to fall down, right? They're just not going to be able to do it. Ohio State has looked a little shaky. They came off a bye week and nearly lost to my glorious king and freshman sensation Dylan Raiola in Nebraska at home, mind you. And then they lost at Oregon the week before by a point. Ohio State on paper has put Tony Stark level money into their football program, and for some reason have lost a game. They should have been 15-0 with a national championship held above their heads at the end of the season on the national stage. No ifs and buts about it. Ohio State has the most expensive roster in college football with some of the best athletes. No offense, you put your life at stake for Will Howard to be your quarterback. Let me just tell you that. That was a bad decision from the start. Anyway, but Ohio State should not have lost the game. But now you get Penn State here. And Ohio State, oh my goodness, were they looking ahead to this game? I don't know why you would. It's Penn State. But after Penn State, you get Purdue, you get Northwestern, you get Indiana, who is ranked, who is undefeated right now, and then you get your actual rival, Michigan, at home at the end of the year. So Ohio State, you have one of the easiest walks in forever. To get to the playoffs in the national championship. And that's why you're going to screw it up. This year, I'm going with Penn State. I think Ohio State has not been playing up to what they should be performing as. They've lost to Oregon. Should have lost. If that wasn't a freshman, Dylan Raiola should have lost to Nebraska. I'm calling an upset here, big noon kickoff. Penn State at home takes Ohio State. I'm going Penn State with this one, guys.
What?
Hey, Freddie, I just looked out my window over here and I swear I just saw a pig fly by. I swear.
Dude, I don't even know what to. Dude, I was getting ready to say, you guys called me a Colorado hater, but I don't talk near as bad about Colorado as Chase does of Penn State.
Yeah.
And then he goes out here and picks Penn State to win. Listen, Chase, I love the pick. I love the pick, brother. I'm going Penn State to win as well. I think. Listen, you were exactly right about throughout the years of 3 bold takes, the talking heads. Whatever iteration of this podcast you want to talk about, I have been on the Penn State train. And I have not liked Ohio State. This is the last time that I'm going to give James Franklin the benefit of the doubt. It's time to put up or shut up. And I think this game is going to determine. Now, that may be a stretch because, listen, if Penn State loses this game and goes on to make the playoffs and makes a deep run in the playoffs, James Franklin isn't going anywhere. He's just not. However, if you lose this game and then lose in the first round of the playoffs, or you lose, for instance, if they make the conference title, they won't. But for some reason, chaos happens. They make the conference title. You lose, whatever. It's time to look internally for issues for not being able to get over the hump and not blaming Ohio State being too good or whatever. You have the tools necessary to be as good as Ohio State. You have the potential to be as good as Ohio State. You have to be better than Ohio State this year, and I think this is the year they do it. I'm probably going to say the same thing next year and push it off a year, but we're talking this year, 2024. Penn State's going to win. They've got Ohio State at home. The ESPN matchup predictor's a little wild to me. 60% Ohio State, 40% Penn State. Little wild there, considering Penn State is at home, and I don't think the computer models are really looking. Obviously, they're computer models, right? They're not watching the games. They're just seeing Ohio State win and win and win, and then that close loss to Oregon doesn't hurt them as bad. Yeah, I'm so excited for this game, Quinn. I hate the big noon kickoff. I've said it time and time and time again, and I get roasted in the comments because for some godforsaken reason, people like this. I don't. It's stupid. You can go now, Quinn.
I guess they like it because they don't have to wait all day for their big game. I guess that's probably the reason they like it. But like in moments like this, you rob what would be a beautiful atmosphere.
Mm-hmm.
Now let's move into this matchup. Specifically, these two teams against Power 4 opponents. They're basically the same team. They're scoring anywhere from about 21 to 38 points in each game. They're giving up 14 or less in each game. Both went out west and looked ugly. Penn State in a close win against USC. Ohio State in a close loss against Oregon, where both teams scored up into the 30s. They're going to want to, like, you look at Penn State, right? And what they've struggled with over the last handful of years with Ohio State is offensively, Penn State wants to run the ball, play slow, and beat you with defense. And Ohio State had a pretty good defense and an elite offense. And so Penn State could not score enough to stay in the game with Ohio State. This year, it's different. These two teams are basically the same football team. They're trying to possess the ball, run the game, get good production out of their quarterback, but not elite quarterback play in the sense of like Cam Ward in Miami, where he puts the team on his shoulders and wins each Saturday. They're wanting to play balanced football offensively and bloody you on defense. So I think the game is starting to come to Penn State a little bit. I think Ohio State's getting a little bit out of their comfort zone. Look, Freddie, I'm right there with you, man. I've beat the Penn State drum for years. I have thought that they were this close to getting over the hump. I thought they were going to be the team to finally dethrone Ohio State, not Michigan. But I guess if you're not cheating, it's hard to do that. So this could be the year. But I said last year that this was the last time I was giving Penn State a chance. And if they couldn't get it done, I was going to start giving the benefit of the doubt to Ohio State until they lost. So I'm going with the Buckeyes. I think that they're going to get the win.
What
I'm
is
not riding with
happening
Penn
right
State.
now? What
I
is
know.
happening?
I know. I thought I was going to come on here and crush your spirit and side with Chase. And then he came out here and just like flipped the script entirely and was like, actually, James Franklin's good now and they're going to beat Ohio State.
No,
But
no.
that's
Do not put those
exactly
words
what
in my mouth.
that's exactly what he said.
Yep.
Do not put that one in my mouth.
But I'm gonna go with Ohio State on this one. I think they are more battle tested. I think they're definitely going to get more battle tested by the end of the year.
Yeah.
So give me the Buckeyes to get the win over Penn State in Happy Valley in a close one. I think really whoever can get to 24 points is probably going to win this ball game.
Well, and to add, this is it for Penn State.
Oh yeah,
This is the only game that matters. The only game. You have Washington, Purdue, Minnesota, Maryland after this. This is the only game that matters. If you lose this game, and no offense, if you stay inside the top 12 after losing this game, I don't understand it. You probably will. But anyway, this is the only game that matters. If you do not win this, if Penn State does not win, if James Franklin does not win, gone. The Jamal Adams opening the Jets facility door, that's what I'm doing to James. The second after, hey guys, Lion, like Nittany Lion teammates, whatever, I'm going to go back to the facility. I'm going to watch film. Nope, door's locked. Sorry, Franklin, we changed the keys already. It's a minute after. Doesn't matter. Don't you dare step back in this facility. That's how big this game is for James Franklin's career, Penn State season. You got to win.
The career thing is still wild to me. Like, I don't think you get rid of a guy who consistently gets double-digit wins every single year, but you do you. I'm not here to tell you what to do in your hypothetical college football program, Chase. But
Thank you.
I would not get rid of
if they lose this game, I'm going to go into CFP 25, start a dynasty with Penn State, and fire James Franklin
just
myself.
to fire him.
First game. So I can feel something. I just let you guys know.
Okay, well, I'll tell you this. They have not yet made a playoff in CFP 25 in any of my seasons. So maybe you're on to something there, Chase. But that being said, guys, that was our prediction for Ohio State, Penn State. The world has turned upside down, apparently. Thank you for clicking in on this video. We got more coming your way.
We got a huge game for you this weekend. We got Florida and Georgia, as always, one of the best rivalries in the early parts of November. This is, oh my goodness, I have not looked at the spread yet, and I just did, guys. So it's still October for us, so that's why I had a little bit of a jump scare. But it's a 16.5-point spread Georgia's way. Holy crap. I was not expecting that one. 52.5 over under here in this one. And Quinn, remind me, what is the name of this rivalry game again?
Well, they've kind of separated away from it. So now it's referred to as the War for the Oar. However, everyone knows it as the world's largest outdoor cocktail party because that's what it is.
Interesting.
That's what I thought. And when did they change that? Quinn is our this guide to all things rivalry in college football.
As far as to when they changed it, it's been a gradual change for like the last decade now.
Okay.
They battle for like this old, like the trophy is like this old oaken like oar. So they just have tried to change the name of it recently because it's just really hard to say the world's largest outdoor cocktail party. That's a mouthful for a name of a rivalry. So
it is. Yeah. And Quinn, again, like I mentioned, is our know-it-all for every rivalry there could be a rivalry between Wyoming and North Dakota State that you've never heard of. Quinn's going to know it, as always, so we're thankful to have Quinn on the show. But an 80% chance for Georgia here to win this game per the matchup predictor on ESPN. Freddie, we're going to give it to you first. You let us know what you're thinking in this one.
Well, I'm not thinking much as far as Florida has a chance in this game because they don't. I think Georgia is going to win this game, but my biggest thing is how does Georgia respond after beating Texas, right? Beat them handedly. Well, pretty much handedly, in my opinion. I mean, that was an absolute beat down on the defensive side of the ball, of which we're accustomed to seeing from Georgia, right? So have we awoken a sleeping giant in Georgia this year, or is this going to be a game similar to the Mississippi State game where, yes, they win comfortably, but it's a little bit closer than you anticipated, right? The spread on the Mississippi State game was somewhere in the 20s, and they ended up winning by 10. 16.5 for rivalry game. Florida is not as bad as we probably thought they were, and they have a better record right now than I think we thought they may have. Georgia wins, but Florida covers the spread. I think this is going to be a closer game than probably you would anticipate, or at least that Vegas is anticipating. DJ Lagway, I think he's got a lot of progression that has to happen between now and next year, and I think that this is going to be a great chance for him to do that, to play against a Georgia team that is dominant. They're ranked second in the country for a reason, right? Like, you don't just get that ranking just to get the ranking. They've earned it. Carson Beck, though, he's got 8 interceptions on the year. That's too many through 7 games. Like, that's a little over 1 interception a game. He's got to learn to take care of the football a little bit better. Granted, I think 3 of them were against one team in Alabama, but that's beside the point. He's got to get better. And I think he's got to get better taking care of the football if Georgia wants to go on to do the things that they want to do this year and compete for a national championship and win the national championship. And I think this is going to be a good game for him to get back on track doing that, especially after the game against Texas. But give me Georgia to win, Florida to cover the spread, and Billy Napier does not get fired. Because I think we need to kind of talk about that week over week.
My bad. Real quick, Quinn, before you go. Actually, Freddie, 3 in the Alabama game and then also 3 at Texas.
So
yeah. And they still beat Texas 30-15, by the way, with 3 interceptions. No touchdowns from him. Quinn?
Yeah, so, I want to start by acknowledging the fact that I am often referred to as the Florida Gator hater on this show.
We need you a shirt.
And I want to. We do. It's
Gator
odd
hater.
with me wearing the orange, but
telling.
I want to start by saying I was going to get on here and say they were going to make this a competitive game with Georgia because honestly, after getting blown out by A&M, Florida has kind of turned their season around a little bit.
They have.
Their only loss since that is an overtime loss to Tennessee on the road. So they've actually looked really impressive. Then I decided to get on here and look at the history results of Florida, Georgia since Kirby Smart showed up. Florida took him down in 2016, his first year as the coach. Game was super competitive when Georgia was way outmatched. Florida took him down in COVID year in 2020. Every other game, the Bulldogs would cover the spread of 16.5, except for 2019, where they were both ranked in the top 10. Florida was higher ranked, and they lost by a touchdown. Every other game, Georgia has won by 17 plus points, which means to me that Kirby Smart clearly makes this a huge emphasis for his team. So give me Georgia and Georgia to cover. Probably going to drag Gator guts all over the field. It will be ugly. Florida fans will cover their children's eyes. They will tell them falsities at bed to help them sleep. They will probably get rid of the color red in their home for months. It will be bad. I'm just telling you right now, I'm just telling you straight up, this is going to be ugly. I genuinely was about to get on here and pick this to be a Georgia win in a close competitive ball game because frankly, I haven't been super impressed with Georgia this year, even with their road win over Texas, as far as them being what they have been the last couple years. But then I just look at the long results of just dominating Florida every single year. And it's kind of an inverse of what Steve Spurrier did to the Bulldogs during his time as the coach for the Gators. It's kind of the exact opposite of that. Spurrier played at Florida at a time where they got dominated by Georgia while he was a player and then went on to dominate Georgia as a coach. Kirby played at Georgia while Spurrier was dominating the Bulldogs and has now went on to dominate the Gators as a coach. So yeah, give me Georgia to cover. It's going to be bad.
Look, I actually love what Florida's been able to do this season. A tough schedule. I think they had the toughest strength of schedule and before the season started. And they also had a lot of humps to get over. You had a senior quarterback in Graham Mertz, and you also have a very extremely talented, potentialed young guy in DJ Lagway at quarterback as well. Who do you play? You had to figure that out early on in the season. You dropped a game that you probably shouldn't have with Texas A&M as you're trying to figure this out. But then you bring Mertz back in to be your full-time starter, barely lose the game at Tennessee, and then Mertz is now out. I think Florida, Mertz, I thought he's a good quarterback, but he's not an elite quarterback. I think DJ Lagway here gives the Gators more room, a higher ceiling than they did with Mertz, just because of his potential. But they're also going to have a lower floor because this kid's a true freshman. He's going to make mistakes, and this is a game where he's probably going to make a few mistakes. However, I'm not going to take Georgia on the spread. I think Florida keeps it close. I think this is going to be a very good rivalry game. I'm still going to go Georgia here, but I'm going to say a 7 to 10 point win more than the 17. I don't think they cover that because Georgia's a great team, but this is a rivalry game. Your guys are going to show up and play, first of all. And then second of all, you're going to unleash Georgia's going to see a kid that Florida hasn't had a quarterback, man, do I want to say since Tebow, that is the dual threat option that he is. They've had like guys like Jeff Driscoll, Graham Mertz, Will Greer, Kyle Trask, guys like that are pocket passers. This kid has a chance to do a little bit of both. He's a big kid, 6'4", 6'5", so he's going to provide some stresses to this Georgia defense, I think, at some points. But he's still going to make some mistakes because he's a freshman quarterback. I mean, look at Dylan Raiola in Nebraska. Dylan Raiola has performed extremely well for Nebraska this season. But in moments that they've lost games, you can see, hey, that's a freshman mistake right there. Overthrowing your guy, putting the ball in a place that you shouldn't because you're young. You're trying to force the ball. You're going to see this, but you're also going to see some good things out of Florida. I'm going to say like a 35-20 game, and it's going to be very fun, very competitive. Something of that nature. I think Georgia is still going to win this game regardless, though. But I'm in agreement with Freddie. Carson Beck has really got to step up his game. He came into the season as a Heisman contender. I think he was the top 3 when he came in. And then there was talks, very quiet, but there were talks of him potentially being a first overall pick. And Carson Beck does not deserve either of those things at this point in time. It has been carried by what we thought might be a down year for this Georgia team, talent-wise. But it seems like when you go back and look at the games that Carson Beck has had, he's been carried by not only his offense, but the defense as well because of how poorly he's played. And 41-31 against Mississippi State, you throw 2 interceptions. That's a lot of your talent speaking for you if you're not playing well at quarterback. Same thing for having a dominating win on the road in Austin with 3 interceptions, no touchdowns. Carson Beck's got to step up his play, and hopefully he does it in this game. So Georgia can go on and win. So I'm going to take I'm going to take Georgia in this one. Florida on the spread.
Hey, real quick before we log out of this video, how big of a game do you think ETN has?
This is a homecoming game.
He's definitely going to be the storyline of this matchup.
You think so?
Absolutely. In my mind, he is.
I agree.
I mean, he's been. Has he had a big game yet this season? I mean, he's been decent, has he not?
No, the Georgia run game has really lacked this season.
So he had 3 touchdowns against Texas, so that's what carried. But
yeah,
he hasn't had a game over 100 yards yet, which is really interesting for ETN and Georgia, because Georgia's usually a really good rushing team. I actually couldn't tell you a backup that's on Georgia's team as a running back right now. Typically, they have like a 2 to 3 headed monster out of that running back. So maybe it's just lacking. The offensive line isn't getting the push like they need to.
Right.
But
guys,
yeah, I guess this is it. We got the Florida-Georgia game, one of the biggest rivalries. Well, in my eyes, one of the biggest rivalries in college football. Fun one to watch if you're an SEC fan. So make sure to tune in. That's 2:30 p.m. Again, Georgia a 16.5-point favorite on this game. We're all going with the sweep in Georgia.
We all love SeatGeek. They're my preferred ticket partner even before they came on as a partner of the channel. So go check out SeatGeek. 3 bold takes, $20 off your first purchase. The game that we're going to talk about today in this edition is number 10 now, top 10 ranked Texas A&M after their win against LSU, is on the road at South Carolina. Texas A&M comes in as a 3.5-point favorite with a 54% chance to win, according to ESPN. The over/under is 46.5. This game, man, I opened up this spread and was a little surprised, but then I thought, well, South Carolina's played a lot of teams tight. Could Texas A&M be another team that South Carolina plays tight? Quinn, let's hear from you first.
Oh, absolutely. They're going to play Texas A&M in a tight game. A&M just came off of a huge emotional game against LSU at home that they got a good win after a late comeback and then just kind of ran away with it in the fourth quarter. And South Carolina has been sitting at home ever since almost beating Alabama, honestly, kind of missing out on an opportunity to upset the Tide. They kind of, I would argue, outplayed them for most of that game and then dominated Oklahoma on the road. And now they're sitting in a bye week, getting ready, watching A&M film. And there's plenty on both quarterbacks, so it really doesn't matter who A&M trots out there. I would definitely make a plan for both because you don't know who you're going to see at any moment. But that being said, I think this A&M team is kind of on a roll. And I do not see them losing a game until maybe Texas in the Lone Star Showdown. So give me A&M. I do, like I said, I do think this is a trap game. I wouldn't be shocked at all to see South Carolina pull this upset. They are infamous for a random upset in Williams-Brice that nobody sees coming. Go ask Clemson, go ask Georgia, go ask Florida. They've all lived it. Go ask Tennessee 2 years ago. Everyone who has to routinely play this team has seen it happen to them at some point. That being said, I still like the Aggies to get it done.
Yeah, it's hard. I talked about Texas A&M and my overreaction a little bit. This is a solid team all across the board. They've changed their identity a little bit from when Jimbo Fisher was there. They really love the slow, kind of Big Ten style offense of pounding the rock, really letting their offensive line push around them. They got 2 guys at 6'7", 330 plus on both tackle positions for Texas A&M. So they like to pound the rock a lot. Le'Veon Moss has been otherworldly back for them this season. But the thing that's kind of held it back is Connor Weigman at points. They've been in close games where they lost the Notre Dame game because of Connor Weigman. And that was almost the case for the LSU game this past weekend until they inserted Marcel Reed. Mike Elko made that decision. Marcel Reed probably should get the starts for the rest of the season unless something happens. But Reed is a true freshman, dual threat kid. He's skinny. He's like 6'2", 180, but he can run. Man, can that kid move? And that's what he said in that last game is that they were running a bunch of Reed options for LSU. LSU was taking Moss the entire time. And then Reed decided to just take it. He's like, hey, until they gave me the read that I should hand it off, I just kept going. Reed has the legs on him. And this is what's really cool about the South Carolina game is that Reed and Sellers play a lot of the same kind of ball. And I absolutely love watching both. Sellers has been, when he's healthy and on the field, they should have beat LSU in the game, but he got hurt. Sellers is a fun watch. He is a big guy that can run the course of the field. And it's like watching a Lamborghini get ready to go 0 to 60 in like 2 seconds. Like the kid is fast. Kid's got a big arm. He's big bodied. He's a lot of fun to watch. But Marcel Reed, no interceptions on the year so far. He's playing really well. This is going to be a fun one because, like they mentioned, South Carolina holds people really well. Williams-Brice, except for Ole Miss, but they've played a lot of teams good this year. I think it's going to be another close game. I think ESPN has this one right. It's a slight edge to Texas A&M, and after an emotional win against LSU at home and going on the road against a tough South Carolina team in Williams-Brice, I think Texas A&M might pull this out by a field goal, maybe a touchdown. But I'm still going to go Texas A&M here. They can easily win this game if their emotions are in check And if their heads on straight, I think they can win this game. They should be able to pull it out. But it's going to be interesting to watch Elko and Marcel Reed in this game if he decides to get the full game start.
So this game, like I said, whenever I opened up the spread, I was a little surprised. But going back and looking at Texas A&M, after they pulled off that upset at home against Missouri, another top 10 team, the following week they traveled to Mississippi State and did not play a very good game. Yes, they won. They won by 10 points, but Mississippi State is a horrible, horrible team this year. South Carolina is head and shoulders, I would say, above them as far as competitive level and just team overall. Now, I know South Carolina's conference record at 2-3 isn't the greatest, but I think that they're a better team than what their record suggests. So my thought here is that Texas A&M has got to come into this game with a different headspace than they did against Mississippi State. Now, granted, I know that Mississippi State has the cowbells, this and that. South Carolina's home field advantage is real. I'm going with South Carolina to pull off this upset. I think Texas A&M coming in, they're in the top 10 now. This is a classic trap game against a team, just like you mentioned, Quinn, that is notorious for doing this. This is very, very, very reminiscent of the Tennessee upset a couple of years ago. Right, Tennessee was on track to make the playoffs. All they had to do was beat South Carolina, and they were in. They had the one loss to Georgia, and what happened? They got beat 62 to whatever it was. They got killed. Now, Texas A&M isn't going to get killed like that. I think their defense is a lot better than Tennessee's was a couple of years ago. So this is going to be, I think, probably, 26-20, something along those lines, 26-23, something like that. South Carolina is going to find a way to win this game and make a play down the stretch. So give me the Gamecocks, man. This would be a huge upset for South Carolina and a confidence booster going in because, again, man, they've been close. They've been close in a lot of games. And I think if they could just turn it around, then they may have something special brewing up there. So we've got two guys going with A&M. And then I'm the lone wolf over here with South Carolina to win this game.
We already did a Penn State, Ohio State look at that game. We already did a prediction for that one. And Quinn stated this is probably the best game of the weekend. And in my mind, I knew he was wrong because there was one game that stood before it. And that's the Pitt SMU matchup. And sadly, College Game Day is not going to be in Texas for this game at SMU between these two. Pitt 7-0, 3-0 in conference. SMU with the one loss, undefeated in conference as well. SMU 7.5 point favorite. Over under is 59.5 and a 7 p.m. game. And one more factoid for you: this is the best Pittsburgh Panthers start since 1982 when they had Dan Marino, guys. I'm not saying Eli Holstein is Dan Marino, but I am saying, no, I'm just kidding, guys. But this is a really cool achievement for Pitt. This is a huge game. Quinn, I'm going to you first, brother. What are you thinking on this game? I know you're pretty excited about it.
Oh, I'm so excited for this game. This feels like early 1980s, back when Pitt was relevant. They were winning national titles in the 60s and 70s with Tony Dorsett. And you got SMU. They were huge during the Pony Express days with Eric Dickerson. This feels like a huge throwback game to see these two teams playing in a football game that means a lot for the scope and scale of the season here in 2024. I think a lot of people hear SMU is a 7.5 point favorite, and they go, that's weird. Why are they a 7.5 point favorite? Pitt hadn't lost a game. Go look at Pitt's schedule. All right. Pitt has squeaked out some close games. West Virginia, I'll give them a bye. That's the backyard brawl, big rivalry game. Cincinnati, another close game. They almost took an L in. And there's more than just that. They just squeaked out against Duke. They squeaked out against Cal. They did get a dominant victory. Not Duke. Duke was never mind. They didn't play Duke, but they did squeak out against Cal. They squeaked out against they played a pretty ugly game against North Carolina. They squeaked out on Cincinnati. They've had a lot of close calls. SMU, on the other hand, has been incredibly dominant in almost every single game they've played. I think Duke was the team that they barely squeaked out on, and then SMU had a close loss really early in the year in what is turning out to be an extremely important game against BYU. They lost by 3 points. Uh, I'm riding with the Pony Express. I think this is where Pitt falls off the undefeated train. I do not like them going on the road here. They've looked less impressive on the road than they have at home. SMU, on the other hand, has looked super impressive at home, minus that 1 3-point loss to BYU, which again, they held BYU to 18 points.
Yeah.
Look how good BYU has been this year. They made BYU look pedestrian. All right. Now, again, BYU won the game, but it was a highly competitive affair. I like SMU to get a win here and start propping themselves towards a potential ACC title game run, depending on what happens, obviously, with Clemson and with Miami down the stretch.
Yeah, to be honest, I saw this game and I was excited, but I wasn't, right? Like I think both of these two teams are good. But I think that one team is overrated compared to the other, and that team is Pitt. Now, granted, they are undefeated, 7-0. Cool, awesome, congratulations. But I think this is where it comes to an end as well. I'm going to go SMU to win this game. I don't know if they cover the 7.5. That seems a little absurd. I'm going to go like a 3 or 4 point win here for SMU. They did just barely squeak out a win at Duke, and maybe they were looking ahead to this game because Duke was, kind of just a speed bump on the way to this game, a ranked matchup here. But when you look at SMU at home, my goodness, 66-42 against TCU, 42-16 against Florida State, the worst team in the conference. I'll say that again. They're probably the worst team in the conference, which is wild to say. And they're finally coming home after 3 straight road games against Louisville, Stanford, and Duke. Let's keep that in mind. They have played 3 straight road games, so they're finally coming home. The fans are going to be excited for them to be back home. So give me SMU to win, but not cover the spread.
I'm super excited for this game, like I mentioned. Hold on, I'm reading some stuff up. If you guys don't know much about SMU this season, Rhett Lashley, the head coach, is a wonderful head coach. He was an offensive coordinator with SMU before he became the head coach after Sonny Dykes took the TCU job. And Lashley helped a record-setting offense in 2019. They were amazing that season. And they got their first top 25 ranking since 1986 in that season. So that's huge for them. And then now Rhett Lashley is the head coach. If you know the name at all, if you're an SEC fan watching this video, he previously worked with Gus Malzahn at Auburn, and he worked for Arkansas at one point. So Lashley's been around, and he's found a sticking point with the SMU, and look what he's doing with them. 7-1, 4-0. And like Quinn mentioned, this team has not been this good since the Pony Express days. He's got Kevin Jennings playing a wonderful game out at quarterback. He struggled the last couple with completions, but overall, this guy's performed extremely well. And then on the other side, Pitt's been wonderful. Eli Holstein was a former Alabama commit, and I believe he was on campus for a year before he transferred. Pitt has been a saving grace. I think he's leading the country in touchdowns thrown, if I'm not mistaken, passing touchdowns at the 17 rate that he has. But he's absolutely just done everything he can. Pittsburgh is a heavy passing offense, but so is SMU. I think for me, I'm going to go the opposite. I'm going to go Pitt here. I really like what I've seen from Holstein. I really like how he kind of throws the ball around the field a whole lot, and he puts it in different playmakers' hands, and he lets them do their thing. That's what I like. I've watched a couple more games, but I know SMU's offense is pretty lethal. I can't lie. SMU's offense is really run and gun, doesn't slow down much, and really puts pressure on the defense to have to make a stop. This is a huge game for Pitt to continue what they're doing. Here's the hype. You're on everybody's radar. This is the best season since Marino. Can you perform up to standards? I'm going to take Pitt in this one to finish it off. I think this is a wonderful game. If you're not paying attention to smaller ACC games like this, that is like, hey, this isn't the big name of Clemson or Louisville or Florida State or whatever. This is a great game. This is where parity in college football happens, is in a game like this when you've had a lot of great quarterbacks or other players come to some of these smaller schools and let them perform. This is a wonderful game. Wish College Game Day was here, and for me, the biggest game of the weekend. I've got Pitt in this one. They both got SMU guys.
But let's move on to the ACC here. We have a team in Clemson who is hosting Louisville, which, oh, by the way, Clemson is sneaking around that top 10 ranking mark after being beat in week 1 by Georgia. Similar to Texas A&M, kind of been staying under the radar, except Texas A&M has 2 now top 10 wins on their resume. Clemson does not. However, this is going to be a good opportunity to further solidify their chance to reach the ACC championship game. They come in as an 11.5-point favorite at home. The over-under is 61.5 with a 67% chance to win. Chase, does Dabo get it done again and make another appearance in the ACC championship?
Man, I'm so glad you came to me first, Freddie. I was fired up about this game. Let me tell you guys, fired up, guys. Let me tell you. So when we talked earlier this season, we did some overreactions. I said Clemson has the chance to be the 2022 Oregon team who got absolutely decimated in their first game against Georgia and then rattled off win after win after win onto a 10-2 season, 10-3 season, something like that, 11-3, whatever. I don't do math correctly all the time, guys. That's when I talk. Anyway, Clemson's doing the same thing, guys. I told you. And it helps a little bit when you're probably playing the bottom 6 teams in the ACC, which is already one of the worst conferences out of the Power 4. You played NC State, Stanford, Florida State, Wake Forest, Virginia. Probably the worst set of teams you can have, and you won. Look at you go. Cade Klubnik, though, deserves his flowers. He's gotten a lot of heat for how he's played the last couple seasons, but he's got 20 touchdowns. Freddie corrected me on the SMU Pitt stat that I had. I thought Holstein led the country in touchdowns thrown. Klubnik is actually up there with Show from Louisville, which is hilarious that they're going to play each other. So that's already going to pinpoint what's going to happen in this game. A lot of passes are thrown. Clemson's offensive game, the run game has come on here of late. Maffa has been a good fill-in for Will Shipley. I think their offensive line has had some movement, which is really going to help them. They haven't been some of the running games that they've had in years past, like with ETN and others, but it is coming on here late, and they're doing a really good job this season. I think it's going to be a true test. Clemson, however, has not played a lot of great teams in their route to an undefeated conference play. They haven't played the level, but it's an ACC schedule. You're not going to get a whole lot of great teams here. I think their best game that they're going to have is one that is later on in the season against Pitt. For me, though, I'm just going to keep it clean and easy. I'm going to answer Freddie's question. I think Clemson gets it done here. They eventually are going to have a way to get to the ACC championship game. They got Louisville here. They have Virginia Tech and Pitt on the road the next 2 games after that, and then they have the Citadel and their rivalry game with South Carolina. I think Clemson gets it done in this game. It's not going to be a pretty one. I think this is going to be a lot closer than other games. You gave up 31 to Virginia before the bye week at home. I think Louisville does a little bit of the same. I'm going to say probably a 34-27, 34-24 kind of game. Clemson's still going to win, but is it going to be as pretty as some of these other ones where as a Clemson fan you can let your zipper down, breathe a little bit, have your gut out, I don't know. Clemson, though, will take it. I got them there. Quinn?
All right, look, you highlighted something I want to talk about. Look, Clemson, I like them to win this game. And I agree with you. I think they win it by about a touchdown. I think Louisville's going to be a competitive opponent. It's going to give them fits for the first half, maybe 3/4 of the game. Clemson pulls away late. However, and this is something that we just kind of been messing around with here in the break after we got done talking to SMU Pitt, because for those of you who hadn't seen the video, both I and Freddie went SMU on that game. That's a nightmare scenario if you're a Clemson fan, because Miami, SMU, and Clemson are all currently undefeated in conference play, and none of them play each other, which means you open up the potential for all of them to finish undefeated in conference play. Now, if you're a Clemson fan, you go, so what? Okay, tiebreakers. You don't want tiebreakers, Clemson fans. All right, because Chase just laid it out for you. You have not played a super hard ACC schedule. All right. Both SMU and Miami have played a harder ACC schedule. And when you compare common opponents between all 3, there's only 2 teams that all of them will play against. All of them are done playing Florida State. Okay, SMU beat them by 26. Miami beat them by 22. You beat them by 16, which means you're already at a disadvantage because of that series. Now you look at Louisville, that's the other team all of you are playing. That's the game you're playing this weekend. Both Miami and SMU won by 7, which means if you're Clemson, you need to win this game by 14 points minimum. That way you are not stuck at the whims of SMU and Miami's schedule playing out. That's the real thing that I'm seeing here is they need a 14-point victory over Louisville.
Yep.
I don't think they get that. So we'll see what happens to Clemson down the stretch. I just wanted to make everybody aware of this weird scenario playing out in the ACC right now. But I do like the Tigers to get it done. Louisville hasn't been what I thought they were going to be this year. I thought they were going to have a chance to be a sneaky ACC title game appearance team, just like they were last year. Turns out those teams this year are Pitt and SMU.
Yep.
So give me the Tigers to get it done against the Cardinals. I like them by 7 points, which would be nightmare fuel if you're a Clemson fan.
Yeah, so the thing about Louisville this year is they have played teams close. Even if they lost, right, it's been a close game. You mentioned the Miami, the 7-point win, or the 7-point loss, excuse me. You lost to 7 against SMU. You lost to 7 against Notre Dame. So it looks like the 7-point margin is where Louisville is staying at whenever it comes to losses. Now, wins, you look at the other direction, 4-point win against Boston College, a 4-point win against Virginia. Wow. Louisville, if you are a fan of Louisville, 7-4 is your lucky numbers. All right, put that on a lottery ticket. Go have some fun. I think Clemson beats them by more than 7. I do. I like probably a 12 to 13-point win here. I think they cover the spread of 11.5. And again, as Quinn just mentioned, nightmare scenario for the Clemson Tigers here with the spread being 11.5. I think Clemson is 11.5 points better than Louisville. However, Louisville has seemed to play up to their competition against teams that they are, far, I guess, inferior to. But I think it ends here. 6:30 at home for Clemson and Death Valley. Give me the Tigers to pull away with a win and cover the spread of 11.5. So we've got a clean sweep here. The Clemson Tigers taking this game and continuing their run post Georgia loss earlier in the year. That's been impressive. Getting back on track there. So thanks you guys for watching. Again, SeatGeek. Discount code 3BoldTakes. You get $20 off your first purchase. Shout out them for giving us and you guys that code. Use it, save your money, and help out the channel while you're doing it. Appreciate you guys watching. This has been the last prediction video that we've done in Week 10. We'll see you guys next week. Enjoy this weekend of football games. Peace.